Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Noni Davis of St. C Academy, a legacy owner of a private African Center school here in Durham, North Carolina. Um, I'm in my office, as you can see, with all my books and the curriculum I've written over here, all of that. Um, I inherited St. C Academy from my parents, Sylvia Davis and the late William Edward Davis, and we've been here for 28 years, and we focus on African centered education. And I am still learning how to do a podcast, but give thanks for Mark Lee, who is helping me learn this process and build my little space. Um, so every week we talk about I talk about African history and the connections to American history. But today I want to start looking at some of the ancient 4,000 BCE um, civilizations that were in West Africa. Because most of the time we know about the empire of Kush, some of it, and we definitely know about ancient Kemet. And one of the problems that we have as Africans and African Americans is that, and I guess I found out even more how really nasty and miseducated people are is through Instagram postings. I've had a couple of very racist responses to things I've said. Folks saying, mostly young white males, that what do you mean talking about colonialism, and you all ought to feel good because you were all living in mud huts. And of course I had to explain that bricks are made from mud and clay. So if you live in a brick house, you live in a clay mud house anyway. But there's just this notion, oh, your ancestors put enslaved you, wherein, well, actually Europeans enslaved their own people too. So we have to constantly counter these narratives. And I was fortunate to hear a young man last week who he has his website, YouTube website is um, Archeo Archeo Viking, and he's an archaeologist, history of early complex societies in West Africa, and this was published on YouTube in February of 2023. And so he shared a pretty um, anti-racist posting about ancient empires and ancient civilizations, and created a narrative about different places. Like in Europe, he looked at Asia, he looked at the what we call the Americas, and then he also looked at Africa, and he was just making comparisons between them. But it was not through a racist lens. It was all about giving each individual place their their due, their respect for the things that they developed. And so it was very honest, and I appreciate it because unfortunately in our school systems we do not our kids do not get this stuff. We'll start with, even now, the problem with Neolithic or prehistoric um, history, it always begins with Europe. They might give Asia, they'll give Mesopotamia some kudos, and the Hittites in Europe. I mean, here Hittites who came to um, uh, Egypt were the ones that invented ironsmithing. And what we have found, you have to do so much research, and this is what I have learned to do. So this is my area of expertise, finding information about Black people so that we can know our own stuff. And so today, I the reason why I didn't want to focus on Kemet is because there's a lot of um, um, stuff already done about Kemet. We know that Black people were there. They still want to argue with us and say that these people were not black, these people were not African, and they, sub-Saharan Africans are not the same as Africans in the north. And I'm like, well, okay, Sudan is right beside Egypt, and these are black people, and Egypt is just above Ethiopia, and those are black people. And so Ethiopians do not look like Sudanese. Sudanese do not look like Somalians. Somalians do not necessarily look like South Africans. And South African people don't necessarily look like people, the Mende or the Nigerian or the Senegalese. So we have um, numerous phenotypes on the continent. And then, let's not talk about Europe, because the Greeks do not look like Norwegians. Let's be real. And people in Finland don't necessarily look like people in Greece. So we know that the difference in phenotype, blonde hair, blue eyes, to dark hair and dark brown eyes, are on the continent of Europe. And the differences in skin tones and hair texture also exist on the continent. And we know that Africa, Kemet was on the ocean, and most um, places that had coastal trade um, situations, along the river, whatever, you're going to have a convergence of cultures, and you're going to have interracial interactions. And so, I don't want to say there were no Europeans in ancient Kemet, but we know the dominant people were definitely African. And you cannot tell me what I see with my eyes is not what I see with my eyes, And so we have a culture of lying. We have a culture of of just a fight against black people. I mean, it is so intense. And I live in this little bubble, and so sometimes I'm not aware of it until I get out there and actually see the barrage of racism and nastiness out there. But it is what it is. But today I want to talk about our empires that are in civilizations that were concentrated in areas where we know there is no discussion about whether these people were black or not. They were black. And so it's not debatable. So the first thing I wanted to do is talk about the Niger River. Um, the Niger River is shaped like a bow, and Lord have mercy, I tried to get some pictures of some of the stuff. I was supposed to send them, and I did not send them like I was supposed to because I forgot. But the Niger River flows through. Um, let's see, is that a good picture? I don't know how well you can see this picture, but if you see, it starts in Guinea over here near Sierra Leone, and it goes all the way. That blue line is the Niger River, and it comes all the way down to Nigeria, and that's the Gulf of Guinea. So you can see how it covers quite a few um, countries. It's going from Guinea, Sierra Leone, Niger, let's see, Mali, um, Mauritania. It has the Benue river thing. I think that's what those are. And then you've got it coming through Timbuktu all the way down through Burkina Faso. Let's see, past Burkina Faso, and then Nigeria, Chad, Benin, and Nigeria. So those that it is shaped. I'm trying to think how far long is this river. This river is 4,180 kilometers, or covers a 2,117,700 kilometers. It's the third longest river in Africa, and the longest one, of course, is the Nile River, which travels um, along the coast. From Tanzania all the way through Egypt, and then you have the Congo River, and which is the second largest, and then of course this river. So a lot of trade developed along the Nile River. I mean the Niger River, which most of us are um, familiar, that what I was saying earlier about waterways, where you have these rivers They are people are using them for food. They're using them to for um, the for travel, and they're using them um, for communication and also just to fish and provide nourishment, whatever. But what is particularly interesting is that this history of these, I think I've got five that I want to talk about over the course of the next couple of weeks. But these empires completely disrupt that narrative that of this Tarzan kind of image of West Africa. You know, you have this elite community in um, Egypt or Kemet. You got this elite community in Ethiopia, but in 4000 BCE, what was going on in West Africa? So that's what we're going to talk about. So, one of Robin Walker, I believe his name is Robin Walker, was the first person who I saw who had this book called, ew, Lord have mercy, um, When We Ruled. When We Ruled. I just had it. When We Ruled, the medieval. Okay, and this book is something that you might be interested in. When We Ruled by Robin Walker. And when I read his book, that was the first time that I actually saw When We Ruled, and that's Queen Tai on the cover of Ancient Kemet. This was the first time I saw the this place called Dar Tichit. Dar Tichit. And Dar Tichit is I'm not sure that I'm even pronouncing it correctly, but Dar Tichit was an empire or a civilization. I'm gonna just say civilization because I don't know the extent. I'm still learning about what would qualify it as an empire versus just a civilized place. But it was located in Mauritania, that area. And as you saw, the Niger River is not there, but it had tributaries that were going up to that area. But they believe that at one point in 4000 BCE, a lot of these rivers were significantly larger. And then with the expansion of the desertification, I guess, of the Sahara, a lot of these rivers are now underground, and they're not so the air they dried up above ground over through climate changing activities, and so they're no longer there. But at one point, these rivers were huge, expansive, and several communities were created around them. So Mauritania um, is where the Soninke people of um, of Mauritania created this space called Dar Tichet. Dar Tichet is spelled Dhar, and Tichet is Tichitt. And I just want to show you a picture of the Soninke people if I can find that picture. Where did I put that picture? Soninke people. All right. So this is a picture of Soninke people. So you can see that they are black people, Soninke. And these are the people who are the folks who created Dar Tichet. Dar Tichet is 4000 BCE. And that at the time, um, it Ghana, the first Ghanaian empire, emerged out of Dar Tichet. Okay, and this is when I say Ghana, I'm not talking about the country of Ghana, which is now on the coastline down in of of West Africa. Is between what Ghana, like is Liberia, Ghana, Togo, Benin, all of those places. Ivory Coast, I think Ivory Coast is there too. So that's where it is located now on the Atlantic Ocean. Mauritania is in the desert. And so between Guinea and Mauritania and I guess Burkina Faso, Mali, Mali is where the artichoke was found. What happened is that remains from this ancient civilization were found, and I think I've got some pictures of the excavation here. Um, let's see, did I? Yes. All right. So this is the excavation here. You see, they have cleared out and seen these places, and this is 2600 BC is when they found these. They were able to. That's what they are presuming that this was, and then the Ghana Empire, it was a continuation of it. So why is this important? Well, it's because, of course, African American people need to understand our ancient history. We know about the Romans, we know about the Greeks, we know about these other people, we know now about the Kemet. Okay, so let's add to our list of prehistory with the artichoke. And so there were several ancient civilizations located near around the Niger River. Um, the countries that the Niger River flow through are Nigeria, Mali, Benin, Guinea, and Niger itself. And I think I said that how long it is. Niger River was a major transportation route. It was uh, one of the names, the original names of Niger is Garen, which or Inger, which is a Tuareg word for rivers. It was also called the Isabur by the Songhai people, which would be the last empire. You had Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. And Songhai was the largest empire of that era. And this was, I think, this was Songhai would be 1300s through the 1500s, 80. And then you had it begins in the Guinea. Joliba. Joliba was the Mandinka word or Mandingo word, which means great river. So the Niger River is not what our ancient people would have called this river. It's probably closer to Isabur or Inger, and then they changed it to Niger or whatever. Um, it begins in Guinea Highlands and flows to Gulf of Guinea, and it flows off also through Sierra Leone or touches at the top of Sierra Leone. Um, so historically, let's see, I think I talked about that. So in West Africa, like in places around the world, vibrant communities developed along this river. And so 7000 BCE is when archaeologists found rock art um, in like Algeria and Morocco, which proves that at one point the Sahara was very green. I think most of us are familiar with that. And so transporting, there's speculation that there was actual trade from West Africa all the way over to ancient Egypt. There's possibility of trade with Kush, and trade with all over the continent because of these riverways, and it wouldn't have been that difficult. So there is evidence of trade between inter, I guess it would be intercontinental trade would be the word between Africans, and it dates back to 4000 BCE. All right. Um, so there would have been trade between all those countries, and so that explains to me the importance of the Niger River. Um, the loss. Let's see. So okay. So according to the young man who is the Archeo King, I was talking to you all about him earlier. Um, he said around 2600 BC to 1900, they had hunter gatherers there. Now, I'm not sure how do we um, how accurate that is about hunter gatherers. I'm believing that the hunter gatherers may have been there maybe 4,000. And my only reason is because iron smelting in Africa, at first, they wanted, like I said, they always want to say Europeans did it too, and these other people did it. Da, da, da. But Africans were doing iron smelting as early as 4,000 BCE. They have evidence of furnaces and um, uh, iron smelting, iron spears and stuff like that 4,000 years ago. And we know, and they, 4,000 years ago, and there's evidence that they found that it may have begun in Nigeria. But we also know all along the west coast of Africa, iron smelting was one of the things that developed the sciences, which requires a knowledge of chemistry and a knowledge of physics, um, to be able to smelt a rock and melt it down and mold it into something else, and then that thing have the same strength as it did when it was in a rock formation. Now it's in a it still has that solidity of the rock, but it has been completely transformed into another thing. And I did a whole science lesson with that for my eighth graders. But at any rate, when we understand that our ancestors it's believed that Africans were the first to do this. There was not a leap from bronze to iron. Our ancestors just started with iron and magnesium. I have to show y'all rocks one time. I've got magnetic rocks that obviously must have been all over the the coastal areas of Africa and in inland as well. But they said that these that metallurgy was all over iron. Well, iron science was all over the continent, and South Africa, East Africa, West Africa, everywhere people were developing independent of each other, and maybe even sharing, through their transportation uh, um, interactions, knowledge of iron smelting. And so we know that they were cultivating, they around 900, 1900s, they said they were cultivating millet. And like I said, I'm not sure how these dates are in alignment, because I could see you being a hunter gatherer, but I don't know that hunter gatherer would also be at the same time as iron smelting. So I'm not sure of how that would work. If you were a hunter gatherer, you had not learned how to settle down well, and maybe you were, I don't know, cunning with spears. I'm not sure, but that's my own personal confusion. But they did say that 3,000 to 2,500 BCE is when iron smelting was in full production in West Africa. Um, so Dartichet is one of the places that I wanted to talk about. And then after following Dartichet, I wanted to talk also about um, what was it? The Knox civilization. And the Knox civilization is 500 BC. And then you have the Gengeno empire, culture that came to 250 BC. And then there was another one, I think it was called Bora um, culture. And basically, I want to just examine over the next few weeks what, when these places developed, or what group of people developed them, what kind of civilizations were there. According to the research that I have, Dartichet became a central location. It had a centralized government. It had skilled laborers and a municipality kind of space around it. And then you had specialists, so communities where you had like ironsmithing, of course, where you had farming. That would have been, I mean, that was like an outskirt, like hamlets, I guess is what the word they used for that. And then a little ways in, you had like a suburban areas. And then, like I said, you had your municipality, your center of government. And this was 2500 BCE. This is comparable to what was going on in Egypt. And as I saw showed you in the pictures, it would, you had city walls, you had housing. They were is somewhat urbanized. Well, definitely urbanized. I did not see how many people they believe lived there, but I know. Um, I don't know. So that's what I'm going to try to present to you next week. How many people actually live there? What other, what was the industry there? I know there was an exchange of fish. I know that they were doing domesticating animals. At this time, there was animal domestication had been mastered, pottery. Um, I'm trying to think, and like I said, trade. Um, Also, there was a significant gold reserves because Ghana, so they weren't only mining iron, but they were also mining gold. And that gold was being traded to Egypt at that point, according to the research. And so, um, we African people were just, we're like, I don't want to say we're like everybody else because I don't want to mainstream it, but we had our own cultural spaces, development, systems of organization, systems of government, um, that were not perfect, but that were strictly, undeniably black. They cannot, black people. And we did not learn this from Europeans. I don't know. One of the things I want to know about the doc in my research for next week is if they had any writing systems, did they have educational systems? But even if they didn't, I'm sure they had apprenticeships where skills were passed on from one generation to the next. Um, and like I said, what would have been the population, but it looked like it was a very highly populated space. But Dar Tit, is something, is a space that we need to know just as well, to me, as we know about ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet. That and also like we know about Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. They're giving us the nod for Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, but we need to know about more than that. We can't get stuck in just one space. The continent is too big, and I want to know more. Share more information about the Nox civilization, and of course, we have the empires in Benin. Geno is it's the name of one of the universities, places where the first universities in Africa were, in West Africa, sorry, were created. So if you're going to create an academic space, there must be a desire for that, which means that there was some uh, interest in developing intellectual and philosophical ideas and concepts and training people in those areas, and then also some of the spiritual practices. But yeah, the word of the day, a concept of the day, is Dar Tichet, an ancient Seninke empire created by Africans 4000 BC. So that would be 6,000 years ago, approximately, that in West Africa, Mauritania. Ashe.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course, I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course, I know my mother.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course, I can play the drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course, I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.